I thought I would do a video on my first son's pregnancy, labor, and delivery. So I have his little baby book to help me because he's 14 months old now. So some of it I remember really well and some of it I don't. So I wanted to make a video while some of the memories are fresh, before even more are gone out of my memory. I wanted to make a video. So, like I said in my last video, I found out I was pregnant on May 18th of 2013. And, let's see. Okay. So, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see these. These are some of the pictures of when I was pregnant. This was at 20 weeks. This was at 30 weeks, the day of my baby shower. And this was at 38 weeks. This was 10 days before my due date and 4 days before I had him. So there's some pictures of what I look like then. And I wish I would have started videos before now. So hopefully with future kids, I'll be able to do, you know, as the pregnancy goes, videos, which will be really fun. So let's see. Oh yeah, I took 5 home pregnancy tests over a course of a week and a half just to make sure that I was actually pregnant. He was going to be coming. And let's see. Oh, like I had already said in the last video about how we told everybody. And his original due date was January 29th of 2014. My doctor that helped me get pregnant decided to take a vice president job at one of the hospitals around town. So I had to find a new doctor for my pregnancy and for my delivery. So that was very stressful to think about. And so I had a couple friends suggest a couple doctors, and I met one of the female doctors and I really liked her, so I decided to go with her. And so my first appointment was just typical blood work and confirming I was pregnant and giving me some information packets. And they gave me an original due date of January 29th, like I had already said. And so around week 6, I started getting really nauseated, really sick. And I was sick up until like week 13. I lost about 10 pounds. And then after that, I was feeling great. I was watching 3 babies my entire pregnancy. And when I first was pregnant, they were 2 2-month-olds and an 8-month-old. So that was extremely busy. But I truly think it helped me overall not gain a ton of weight. And, you know, it kept me going. My days went fast. I didn't focus too much on, you know, the miserable parts here and there of pregnancy. And you know, looking back, I wonder, you know, how I did it. But then I'm like, you know, I'm glad I did. It worked out. So, I don't know if I'd want to do it again like that. I took the stairs like over 30 times a day when I watched the 3 babies. That was a lot. But I handled it just fine. So, I wanted to find out what the gender was. My husband did too, as soon as we could. So, the day I turned 14 weeks, we went to a place around town called, hi buddy, we're talking about you. We went to a place called Ultrasana, and I told, my husband was stuck at work, so my mom went with me, and I told the tech, you know, just put whatever it is in an envelope, and my husband and I will open it when he's home. My mom was mad at first. She wanted to know, but I was like, no, it's not fair to Adam. He was stuck at work. I want to open it with him. So he finally got home later that night, and we opened it, and it said, it's a girl. So we were extremely excited, and were ready to tell our families. I created gender reveal boxes. They were little green boxes with all kinds of pink things inside of them, and they were all excited. And then at about 20 weeks, I had just a general ultrasound checkup with my doctor. And we went in there. I went into my ultrasound first, and the tech was like, are we finding out what we're having today? And I said, well, we already know. She's like, okay, so you're just confirming? I said, yeah. So she put the wand on my stomach, and literally the second she placed it on my stomach, she was like, so you're having a boy? And my husband and I's mouth both dropped to the floor. We were like, what? Wait a second now. We were told that it was a girl. She's like, no, it's definitely a boy. So, what are you doing, honey? So, we were extremely excited. My husband definitely wanted a boy, I think, like any man. So, we called our families, told our families. Ultrasonic gave me my money back, and we had a couple more ultrasounds. And going back on his baby book, I have... My pregnancy was pretty much storybook. I mean, I didn't have any complications, thank goodness. My sugar was fine. My weight was fine. I only gained about, I think, 15 pounds, I think, was all that I gained. This was at about 20 weeks. Or this was 20 weeks. This was 30 weeks. And then this was 38 weeks. 10 days before my due date, and 4 days before he came. So we, it's kind of fun to look back on that, and hopefully next time I can do, more of a, as the pregnancy goes on, for future kids. And so then my baby shower was super cute. I did elephant theme. That was his nursery too. So I had his baby shower in November of 2013 because I thought, before the holidays come and everyone's really busy, I want to catch everybody before then. And then my mother-in-law ended up having a second baby shower for me about 2 weeks before he was born. Just a small get-together of her side of the family, and that was really nice too. And then January 22nd of 2014, at about 1:30 in the morning, I was 39 weeks that day. I started having contractions pretty regularly, and they were extremely painful, and they were pretty much every 2 to 3 minutes, and I was timing them. My husband got off work super late, so I let him sleep. I kind of just, laid on the couch. I couldn't lay in the bed. I was tossing and turning too much. But I had gone to the hospital a few weeks prior thinking I was in labor, and they sent me home. They said, no, this is just Braxton Hicks. So I thought, oh, it's probably the same thing. So I tried to wait it out, and then at about 6 in the morning, I was like, no. I called the doctor on call, and she told me to go ahead and come in to the hospital. So I came in, they checked me. They started checking me weekly at 36 weeks, and at my 38-week appointment, I was at 1 centimeter. So when I first went into the hospital, they said, you're at 2 centimeters. So I was really excited. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm in active labor. So I said, okay, we're going to have you walk for an hour, and then we're going to check you again. So I walked for an hour, and then they checked me, and I didn't dilate anymore. So they said, okay, you can walk another hour. We'll check you again, and then if you haven't dilated, you're going to have to just go home. So I walked another hour, didn't dilate. So they sent me. So then as the day went on, I was super miserable on the couch. My contractions never let up. They continued all day. And I started texting my mom, and she was like, I really think that you should go back in. She said, I was almost born in a truck. So she was super worried that he was going to come quick like I did. So she's like, don't wait too long. Go ahead and go in. So I waited a while, and then finally I was like, okay, I am miserable. I'm going in. So at about 6 p.m. that same day, we went back in. And thankfully, the nurse that I had in the morning was still there. She was just getting ready to leave. So I saw her and I waved to her, and she's like, okay, hurry, come in here. I'm going to check you so you don't have to go through all the typical check-in things. So she checked me, and I was at 4. So she says, hooray, you can get admitted. So I was super excited. So they went ahead and admitted me, got me a room, and they were going to place an IV. And they had a really hard time giving me my IV. I always have issues getting an IV. And so they stuck me 8 different times and couldn't get it. So they were just getting ready to call the IV team to bring the ultrasound machine to give me an IV. And another nurse came, and she finally got it in my hand, which is the worst possible place that you can get an IV, because the entire time I was in labor, I had to keep my hand flat or it set off the machine. And that's miserable. You want to be able to move around. So I finally, excuse me, got the IV. And then at about 8 p.m., I got checked, and I was at 6 centimeters, and I was so exhausted. So I decided I was going to get an epidural for the rest of the labor. So I got an epidural. When she first went to place it, I had an electrocuting feeling down my left leg, and I started crying. It hurt really, really bad. And it was a really weird experience. But once it was placed, for about 2 hours, it was amazing. And I couldn't feel anything. And everybody kept telling me, take a nap, get your rest. And when we told everyone we were, heading to the hospital, we told everyone, just wait, it's going to be a while. Well, of course, they all raced down there. So there was tons of people in the labor room. And it got really frustrating because I couldn't rest. There was too many people there. And so I never ended up getting any sleep. And so the epidural wore off about 2 hours later. And then by like 4:30 in the morning, I was fully dilated. And this was on January 23rd at this point. So the doctor that was on the floor that was part of my doctor's practice, she had 2 other women go to fully dilated at the same time I did. So she was kind of hopping rooms to see who was more at an advanced state. So they had me labor down for like 45 minutes, and that was miserable, feeling all that pressure for that long. But they wanted him to be good and ready to be pushed out. So I was glad that they did do that. So once she finally came into the room and I started pushing, I only pushed for like 25 minutes and he was out. I had a 2nd-degree tear. It was an out-of-this-world experience. I mean, it was so surreal when they laid him on my chest to be like, this is my baby. And he started crying. Not really a full cry. He just kind of whined. And I was so excited. And my husband was so excited. We didn't have anyone else in the room when he was born. I wanted that to be an experience between my husband and I. And I'm so glad to this day we did it that way. I wish I would have had time with my mom for the labor part, just me and her and my husband, instead of the whole room full. But, there's no taking that back now. but I can learn from it for future children. So he was born at 5:48 a.m. on January 23rd, 2014. So I had 28 hours of labor, 25 minutes for pushing, and I was exhausted. I had gone so long without sleep. I hadn't slept at all, so I was ready to just zonk out. But he had skin on skin time. They weighed him. He was 8'8" and 20 inches. And I tried to breastfeed, but he didn't latch at first. And they said, you know, that's fine. So then family visited, and then we got a room to stay in. Okay, I hope that light isn't too bright. I had to take a little break. Now I'm back. Okay, so we got our room, and most of our family had already left since it was so early in the morning that he was born. But some of the family came to our new room, and they visited. And here's a picture of the day he was born, and his hospital bands, and his little cart thing. He's a healthy boy. Such a healthy, happy, sweet, sweet baby. And we had a couple of different people visit after he was born. People were kind of in and out. I was absolutely exhausted. And then when he was about 8 hours old, I was sitting there in the hospital bed, and I started getting a lot of pain. It was like contraction pain again, and lower back pain. And then I was sitting up in the bed talking to my sister-in-law, and I just felt like something was just like gushing out of me. I know it's kind of TMI, but that's what happened. And it just didn't feel right. It felt like clumps. And so I really started to get pain. And so I called the nurse. I couldn't even get the words out for them to come to the room. So my sister-in-law was like, do you need your nurse? And I said, yeah. So she ran and grabbed the nurse, and my sister-in-law, a family cousin, and my dad, I think. Actually, I don't even remember. There was a few people in the room. They walked out, and nurses came in, and she pulled back my gown, and it was all blood. So I was hemorrhaging, and so I was in, a post-op room, so there wasn't the adequate personnel in that area to deal with a hemorrhage. So they kind of panicked, and the room filled with about 12 people, and they're trying to give me pain medicine, and they're giving me a kind of medicine that doesn't even kick in all that quick, which was silly. And so then the resident doctor came in and had to manually remove the clots from my uterus that had not came out when I delivered the placenta. Let me tell you, that was more painful than pushing my son out. I would push him out 5 more times in a row before I would ever want to go through that again. I was screaming. I was hanging on to the top